questions, short and sharp questions. I wanted to ask you something. Just at the beginning, you said that monks used to do simple things in the monastery and enjoy it until recently. So what do they do now?
Well, I'm saying simply that life's become more complex for everyone, including monks, and there are a lot more kind of office work and that kind of thing, computer work and all those kinds of things. And it's not that you can't be mindful or you can't be, a good monk doing all those things, but it's just traditionally developing that kind of joy and mindful flow. It's a lot easier with menial physical tasks than it is with tasks where you have to use your brain and you have to talk with people and communicate with people. Sorry, you said... okay.
Hello. First of all, I'm actually want to say I'm really happy and very excited to be here, to be able to give an opportunity to get to converse with such a respectful and peaceful one like you be here. My faith in Buddhism has grown really strong, and I started my journey in meditation. I started with, not thinking much until the 9th day. I felt something different. It was a state like my body was formed into a triangle, and there was nothing in between except like a frequency type of mind. And then like my brain was blocked for thoughts. And it was really peaceful. After that, nothing happened, and I have to admit that I feel disappointed because I was actually looking to get into that state again. So, as a consequence, my meditation after that wasn't very enthusiastic like what it was before.
Yeah. I try to emphasize that it's the effort itself which is the point, and that the moment we start to create expectations or hopes of some result, then the craving arises in the mind. We start to suffer. And this is most common that if you first time that you participate in a long retreat, and then you have some kind of a breakthrough or some kind of experience that you never had before, that of course you become excited by it, and you tend to think, well, yeah, now I'm getting somewhere. Yeah.
But was it though, or was it just in my head?
Pardon?
Was it just in my head, or was it something really real?
What's the difference?
Some kind of self-fulfilling prophecy that on the right path.
Yeah. No, I mean the point I'd like to make is that you shouldn't give too much importance to like special experiences, and by special I mean unusual. Because this is the idea, we think that meditation, we should be able to experience some special feelings we never had before, and then we think, oh, now that makes all the pain in my legs and the pain in my back, it's worth it, I got this triangle, but this is just one more thing, and the point of meditation is that you don't get excited and obsessed with anything. And so the kinds of things that will arise in your mind and make you want to become excited and obsessed, develop over time. But this is your challenge as a meditator. It's not to experience some special colors or some special vision. That's completely beside the point. You're trying to develop this Buddha knowing. They go, รู้ตื่นเบิกบาน. So whatever arises in the mind, whether it's fascinating or boring or interesting or unusual or things you've seen a million times before, the meditation is that ability to maintain that consistent clarity of mind. So don't get into, because once you have this idea of gaining something, then it's so common, you think next time you sit, oh, I wonder if I can get into that state again, well, that was so cool, I felt so great, Yeah, and almost everybody does that, But the worst thing is that when you meet people who've been like that for 5 years or 10 years, they say, when I first started to meditate, wow, I just had this incredible, but ever since I've never been able to do that again. That's really like the wrong approach to meditation. So it's not what you see, it's not what you know, it's the knowing of it which you're trying to cultivate. Understand? Like the things you can know, the things you can see, the things you can perceive, whether they're created from the subconscious or they're different realms of being. It's not important. It's the sense, it's the one who knows. That's the essence of meditation. That's what you're trying to cultivate. Understand? No. Yeah, whatever, if it arises, it arises. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Yeah. So don't worry about it. Pardon? Well, the fact that you keep doing it. Yeah, I mean, the worst thing is to stop doing it. Okay? So you can have all kinds of experiences, and some will be kind of really cool, and some won't be at all, And the thing is, you're developing ability just to sit there and learn. So rather from the idea of meditation as something you do in order to get something, it's a training, it's an education, it's an exploration, it's a learning process. So change your idea of what meditation is. You think, I'm going to put I'll put some hours on the mat in order to get something from it. Then it just becomes another worldly activity. It's still a pursuit of heaven. It's not a pursuit of nibbana. Heaven is this kind of a permanently pleasant state, permanently exciting state. Many people meditate. They don't call it heaven, but really that's what they're interested in. They want to get to a certain level of ease and happiness and bliss and just be able to sustain that for a long time. Think, oh, now I can meditate. But that's what we call heaven realm. And Buddhism says heaven's okay. If you want heaven realm, that's okay, But there's something beyond that, far more profound. Okay. So,
what advice would you give for women to live a good and happy life?
Well, no different from men, I would think. Well, my view, you see, so I'm speaking not as a woman, but I think that this is the best time in the whole history of the human race to be born as a woman. You have so much freedom. You look in human history, that women have been under the power of men. Usually by the early teens, they're married with children, their life's mapped out for them, no access to education, to make their way in the world. Now, as a woman, you can get married if you want to. You don't get married. You can do that. You can have a career. You can go off meditate in monasteries. You have so much going for you as a woman in the world these days. It's never been so good, So take advantage of it. That's my view. Yeah.
With respect to right thinking and maintaining right thinking daily life, have you any advice about how we might support each other? I don't think they've heard the question.
Yeah, at the moment, when I said right thinking, I'm not sure whether I was that was really the best phrase to use there. I think in all the development of Dhamma in whatever area or sphere, then good friends are incredibly important. and to have communities of good friends. And again, these days we have like social media, and you can develop this like groups of people who, even if you're not seeing each other every day, you can be in touch and sharing thoughts and reflections and encouragement and helping each other out in that way. So we all do have blind spots, and we all do lie to ourselves and deceive ourselves. And so having good friends and people who you trust have your welfare in mind, and that you can hear them when they tell you things you don't want to hear. That's really valuable. And if you have a partner or you have friends, that you have that kind of relationship where you trust them enough that you can hear them say things that you don't want to hear. That's really very good for developing right thinking. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I have to ask a question. Ask a question that bothers me recently. I used to be outgoing, social, and don't like sharing with people. But within this recent 1 or 2 years, I become really withdrawn. I do not like to hang around with people, engaging in shadow classes and things. And I feel good at the same time. I'm not thinking I'm superior or mature than others. But I want myself to be happy. I enjoy spending time on myself. Just keep to myself. So I don't know, it's good or bad.
Can you repeat the question?
Yes, the questioner saying that since practicing meditation, become more, or just generally in your life, and become more inward, like spending more time alone, not so sociable and extrovert as used to be, and whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. Is that right?
I want myself to be more caring. Sometimes if they come to people that if you don't do that in the pain, you are willing to help.
Yeah.
But if you're telling them they are not listening, you just think it's not. You won't get them. They have to understand. I get disappointed somehow. What happens to people? I'm not thinking.
Yeah, so I'll open this up a little bit. I mean, with in monastic training in the forest monasteries, then many monks, they like to be alone, but usually we restrict the opportunities for young monks to be alone too much. They need to have a training of living in community. So it's possible for monks particularly to use teachings of the Buddha to justify defilements. Like if a monk he doesn't get on with other people, and he quarrels with this person and that person, loses his temper, then he says, the Buddha says you should live alone on the mountain, in a cave, I'm obviously on the wrong path, I'm not doing what the Buddha told me to do. So, you can take Buddha teaching and justify leaving community and turning your back on relationships and feel very virtuous about it. So that's a trap. The question is that movement away from activity and socializing, is that based upon just this general love of and enjoyment of being alone, and seeing that you're growing through it, or is it through the fact that when you're with other people, you're confronted with people who have a different idea of who you are than you have, or meeting people that you find difficult to get on with, and it's basically shrinking away from difficulty. Because if you do that, then it's not a good thing. So that's something you just have to be very honest and observant about. As regards helping other people, like the Buddha, you're always teaching different qualities in groups, because you never just like one particular pill or antidote for a problem. There's always more complex. So we have a development of loving kindness and compassion, and sympathetic joy, the ability to appreciate and find joy in the happiness and success of others. But the fourth quality is probably the most important, and that's equanimity. And that means that when we want to help somebody, our pure wish to help somebody is just one factor in the whole situation. There's so many other things. One, does that person want to be happy? Does that person trust us enough to let us help them? Is that person in a situation where they can even hear what we have to say? There are so many things that can affect our ability to help others. And so even with the best will, some people also have very pure heart, but they're just not very skillful. They don't know how to express themselves very well, or they don't choose the right time and place, and so on. So the Buddha said we also need to develop this equanimity or evenness of mind based on our reflection on law of karma. So sometimes we say, that person the situation's not ripe. That person's not ripe. So I'm not in a position personally where I can do anything right now. So I just dwell like this, like in neutral gear. But it doesn't mean you just forget that, okay, turn your back on them, you can't do anything. But you recognize right now, here and now, I can't do anything. But as soon as something changes, if that person opens up, then I will help them. So apart from helping others, you've got to help yourself as well. And so when you can't be active, you have to be able to dwell in that neutral state rather than feel frustrated or feel that, why can't I do it? I had such a good intention and this is how, this is what happens, and sort of lose your self-confidence in helping others. But, yeah.
I'm sorry to use up another time for my own questions. I'm from China, so it's not that easy. My parents, they are old, and they do not have this kind of belief. And I really want to help them. So I don't know how I can prepare them to open their mind. I try to tell them, you can think about other things, what happened there. I want to help them. But if they, as you said, it's not right, they are not open up, maybe they cannot understand within this time, so what I can do to help them. You can see the magic.
Well, I think we have to acknowledge that in Asian culture, it's very difficult for parents to listen to children, tell them that maybe they got things wrong or they need to change their thinking and change their way of. They know you love them, but it's just really tough for parents to be able to hear this from their children, and so. This is I think just a tragedy that sometimes, you have to look to someone outside the family group, someone older than yourself that your parents would respect and can listen to more easily. The other thing is, that parents, they hate it when they feel like children are like lecturing them, or telling them. So sometimes, it's just, as I say, teaching anyone, it's who you are as much as what you're, if you're practicing Buddhism and they see changes in you, they see you're happy, they see you're content, then they're going to be, impressed by that probably more than your words. Or if in a sense, when you're speaking, you say, look, I don't know that much, but I heard this and it just impressed me so much, and I don't know whether you share my enthusiasm. So it's more like sharing your experience with them. And as a child in China or in Asia, there's just so many barriers to this kind of help to offer to parents. Unless you become a nun, then maybe you could do it. But in the sort of the culture that, whether it's more secular Chinese culture or more religious culture, I think these things are very deeply ingrained. And
my question is, thank you very much for the Dhamma talk. And I was very interested when you said that it's easier to have negative than positive, and belief that I go by everything is natural and balanced. So why is it that it's easier to have negative than positive?
yeah, I don't know. I mean, the example I gave, I think, it's like 100 people, you want silence. It's tough. you want noise and disturbance. Only one is enough. So, yeah, that's nature as well. I mean, I think that as Buddhists, it's not like positive thinking or negative thinking, but really trying to observe as best we can and developing our ability to observe and cultivating that. But I think with nature, balance is an idea, but it shouldn't become like the filter, or you shouldn't be saying like, nature means balance, so something natural must be balanced. Because there's a lot of imbalance in nature as well, I think. This how creatures become extinct, and how evolution evolution means like a chain constantly falling out of balance, you could say in one way. I have a nice story about balance. Do you know what Aikido is? Japanese, it's kind of gentle Japanese martial art. And so one of the students speak to their master, and they said, it's incredible. We've been studying with you like for 20 years, and you never lost your balance. Never see you lost your balance once in all that time. And the teacher said, well, actually, I lose my balance all the time, but I re-establish my balance so quickly that you don't ever see it. So I think that balance is not something that there is this balance, but there's a constantly loss of balance, re-establishing of balance in all areas of big question. What's the biggest question that a monk or a nun would ask the teacher? The most common question is, how do I find a balance between my own practice and helping the Sangha? And what's the big problem for lay people? How do I find a balance between work and private time, or family and private time? So, the question of balance and the achievement of balance, that's a big problem. So it shows that, it isn't just kind of a natural thing, that balance is there. I think that you probably have far more knowledge of this, but in the natural world, my understanding is that there is coming into balance, losing balance. There is an overall balance, but that balance is very fragile. And of course, we're in that stage of human history now where all the balance has been threatened. So, yeah, it's just the way it is. But I would say, in terms of people say, why is the news always bad? You read newspapers and everything. So like evolutionary, what do they call them, psychologists or whatever, will say that from the time when human beings lived in caves, and that bad news is far more important than good news. So the good news is if you walk like a kilometer down the road there's a mango orchard. Okay, good news. But the bad news is there's a saber-toothed tiger, just coming over here. There's much more. If you don't go to the orchard, you probably won't die. But if you don't run away from the saber-toothed tiger, you will. So there's this kind of uneven weighting of importance. Bad news means life or death. Good news, not so often. And that's kind of wired into our brains, that we're a lot more alert to bad news than good news. That's one theory. But I would say, so I have some like counterbalance myself to this, is when you read newspapers and news, and so because that reflects that, this mostly bad news, isn't it? But if you look at your own world, not the world, but your world, the world that you experience every day from the moment you get up to the moment you're to bed, for your family, your surroundings, the people I would say for almost all of us, good news far outweighs the bad news. Would you say? There's not so many really terrible things happening in our life, and there's a lot of very good things, and a lot of very small good things that we tend to overlook. And that's part of cultivation, is opening your eyes to all these small good things. It's not just like Pollyanna positive thinking, but it's opening your eyes to so many good things going on around us. Oh, excuse me. So I went to, I'm involved in a school here, a Buddhist school, and it was graduation yesterday evening. And one of the boys, it's like 15, 16, had to come and say a piece in front of all the teachers and pupils and parents. And he has some learning difficulties already, but we wanted to give him a chance. So he spoke a few words, and then he couldn't speak. He froze in front of all these people. And then immediately there were all these calls of encouragement. Everybody started clapping him and cheering him. And then he's there for a long time, and somebody came up to help him read. And there wasn't like a single person or group of kids who were making fun or being there. There was just this whole sense of everybody came together to give this, to help this boy get over his nervousness and self-consciousness. It was the most inspiring thing. And it's a small thing, but it's for me, it was very heartening, to see that. And I think in our daily life, there are times when so many times when just people do small little acts of kindness, and that when we get depressed about the way the world is, just turn your mind to those things. I say it's not just I'm going to be positive, and just try and be, affirmations and positivity, but it's opening up to what's already happening.
So could we say perspective?
Yeah. In what sense would you use that term?
That looking for the positive from your perspective.
Yeah, I wouldn't quite use it in that way. I mean, I'd use perspective in a different way, in a sense that I think to give up, like overindulgence in sensual pleasures. Then most effective thing is to develop meditation until you have access to the kind of happiness that comes when you leave the sensual world. So if you develop meditation to that sense, so you have this intense sense of bliss arising, that's not the goal of meditation. But the value of it is you get a new perspective on the kind of pleasures that you pursue usually in your daily life, and you see that there is actually something superior to that and something that you can access within yourself. So you have this new perspective because you have something outside of that. In the case of what I was talking about, it's more like not sort of taking a positive attitude to the world, but just working on the hypothesis that maybe there's a lot of good and beautiful things going on that haven't really observed. So it's more like, let me open my eyes and test this out. Is this true? It's a questioning attitude. Yeah. Yeah.
During meditation, an aware is that I'm aware of what happened during meditation. And when I meditate, I'm aware that there's feelings. Like I experience something like light arise and disappear. So I also aware that the thinking in my head, asking the question, what is that? And then I also aware that another thinking coming up that you're not supposed to ask questions. And then I also experience like arise and disappear, and then there's another question, and I'm aware of that okay, this is like vicious cycle. I'm not going anywhere. And then there's another thinking coming up, and I'm also aware that you're not supposed to go somewhere. Right? So during meditation, I realized that I'm fighting inside myself. And as your Dhamma is saying that it's not like you're not supposed to judge that this is a good meditation. Before, like I consider it as bad meditation. But now, as I understand what you're saying correctly, it's okay to aware thinking. It's like what the example that you shared about not balance.
Yeah. Well, it's not. I'm not completely rejecting the idea of good meditation, bad meditation, but more that our idea of what a good meditation is and what a bad meditation is. No, I mean, if you just like sit down and just lean back, and just wherever your mind wants to go, you let it go, that's a bad meditation, okay? So for me, like fundamental principle of good meditation is effort. So right effort, there's 4 right efforts that we make. So first right effort is to protect the mind from the unwholesome Dhamma, the unwholesome mental quality or the negative mental quality. The second is, in the case that you can't do that and the negative mental quality has arisen, you make the effort to let go of it. Thirdly, you make the effort to bring the good positive quality into the mind. And fourth, when a good positive quality like mindfulness, contentment, clarity and so on has arisen, you make the effort to cultivate that. So these 4 right efforts, this is the bridge between meditating with your eyes closed and meditating in daily life. Because in daily life you do exactly the same thing. Yeah, you're trying to prevent the unwholesome negative mental state arising, dealing with those that have arisen, cultivating the positive quality. Except in daily life, your particular technique and method will change according to where you are and what you're doing. Whereas in formal meditation, you have a very kind of specific parameter for what you're doing and a specific method. So in a meditation, the thing is, you're making the effort. So if you have a lot of thinking, then, the work of protecting the mind is you're not developing this interest in the meditation object as well as you could. So you need to develop this enthusiasm, interest in the breath or in your meditation object, because if you enjoy meditation object, your mind won't be seeking something else to think about. Yeah, you have to have an anchor to come back. Then it goes off and then you let go and you come back. And it's like any kind of development, learning to play the piano, learning any kind of skill. It's just very basic, like it's not mystical, your mind goes off, you put down, you come back, and yeah, you have to come back. Yeah, well, that's what happens with the breath when it becomes more. One of the things you can do is just to spread the awareness throughout the body. So instead, very subtle here, it get too subtle, then just feel the breath right through the body, just like you're an oxygen balloon, expand and contract. And just so it feels really good. And then when you reestablish your attention this way, then focus again on this point. Okay.
Okay, I think.
Is it? Okay. I thought we were going to 3:30. Okay, 3:50. Okay.
We're going to leave at 3:30.
Oh, you're leaving at 3:30. Okay.
Okay, so thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Answering our questions. Let's make an effort now to get ourselves off. If we can pay respects to Ajahn Jayasaro before we leave. So sit up.
Bow.